Recently I had a haircut in Austria and I tipped. And this is actually how the idea was born to create this video. How does tipping in Austria or Germany work versus in the United States? By the way, I'm Austrian, but I'm pretty sure in terms of tipping it's almost the same thing. So in the United States, I learned that 15 to 20% is that the tip you should give to waiters and waitresses. In Austria or Germany, there is the general rule of like 5 to 10%. However, this is only a small part of the coin. I will explain it to you in way more detail. Usually in a sit-down restaurant in Austria, it's kind to tip, although it's not compulsory. People can still live off their wages. Nonetheless, waiter and waitress is still not a very high paid job, so you rather want to tip them a little bit. And in particular, if they are kind to you. So let's say you go to a sit-down restaurant and you would have to pay €12.50. And usually in Austria you pay directly to the waiter and mostly you pay cash, I would say. For that reason, since the waiter and the waitresses also have to calculate, you usually round up the whole thing. You could give the waitress 13 euros, however, this is rather low. Better would be maybe 14 euros, but I do feel that's already kind of generous for an Austrian person. And if you're even more generous, you would say 15 euros, but I do believe that most Austrians are not doing that. And what also works pretty well in Austria and in Germany, but not so much in Italy, for example, you have a 20 euro bill and you can say 14 and they give you the change back. Or if you have the exact amount, like 14 euros, then you say, that's fine. Or in German, passt so or stimmt so. That would be extremely polite if you come to Austria or Germany. People love when you talk English. Oh, no. People love when you make the effort to talk German. Danke. In Austria, it's also customary that you tip a cab driver. Usually you round up the bill or you just give them like 1 or 2 euros extra, except for long distance. In the United States, I never took a usual cab. I took all the time Uber in Atlanta or Lyft. I also usually gave them then a $1 tip. They have the electronic option and they ask you, and then I thought, well, if I tip a cab driver here in Austria even, like why wouldn't I tip someone in the United States, no matter if it's an Uber or a normal cab? What about fast food restaurants? Do you tip there? And I think in this respect, like Austria, Germany, and the United States have similarities, awkward similarities, by the way. Most of the time, I don't think that people actually give tip in fast food restaurants, which doesn't make sense at all, because usually these people there don't receive any more money than someone at a sit-down restaurant. If I'm mistaken, let me know, but I don't think so. You should give them actually tip as well. But to be fair, I never did so far in Austria. I never tip in fast food restaurants. However, when I was in the United States, I usually paid with card. And then you have the electronic payment option and it asks you whether you want to tip. And then usually I also gave tip as well. But not in Austria. Oops. And in hotels, you also tip, especially in like upper class hotels. And actually I had to do research about that because in Austria I never stay in an upper class hotel, or I hardly ever stay in a hotel in Austria. Anyways, from what my research has shown, every time somebody has to move something in your hotel for you, like if you need room service or somebody parks your car or they move your baggage, you want to give them some euros tip, like 2 to 3 euros, or like maybe 2 to 5 euros if they bring you your bags and things like that. And I personally do believe that it's very kind if you also tip in upper class hotels, because if you pay like 400 euros or 300 euros per night anyways, you might also want to give the people working there a little bit of tip if they give you really good service, because just because they work in a 5-star hotel doesn't really mean that their salary is really higher than a waitress in a small restaurant or a fast food chain. So, just saying. And do you have any idea to whom I usually give most tip here in Austria? The hairdresser. Well, the thing is that with the hairdresser, you know, they give you massages on your head and they talk to you usually, and you develop, at least for maybe half an hour, like a rather personal relationship with the hairdresser. And usually their reputation is also that in Austria they don't get a really high salary. So last time I even tipped 20%, which is rather unusual here in Austria. But for the hairdresser I did. If you go to the hairdresser like every second week, it might be different. And of course in the States I also went to the hairdresser and I also tipped 20%, even though I didn't really understand what he was talking to me because he had a southern accent. And what about tipping in general? I wouldn't say that all Austrians really tip. Like my parents, for instance, they hardly give any tip. And so when we go eating, which is not often the case, but I still think sometimes they don't give enough tip. But I changed my attitude when I went to the States. And I also had several times like kind of a service job where you would serve people. So one time, for instance, on New Year's Eve, I was working with a friend of mine in the check room where we would hang up all the expensive fur coats of people partying in a luxurious ski mountain area. I still liked the work, and do you know why? Because the people there tipped so well. And now please tell me about your tipping customs. How much do you tip and where and when and why and how? Everything. Thanks so much for watching and see you soon. Bye.